Hi, I'm Kathy with Design by Kathy. Today I want to show you how to make some coasters using alcohol inks and resin. So let's get started. For this project, I've got these little square coasters. I got them at Michael's, and I have primed. I primed the side we're going to put the paint on with this Bullseye 123 primer. I put 2 coats of primer on that and let it completely dry. We're going to use these alcohol inks by Ranger. I'm going to use Stream, Terracotta, and Citrus. I'm going to also be using this alcohol blended solution. I got this with, it's from the Ranger inks as well, but I've put it in a little spray bottle just to make it a little easier to use. So what we're going to do, I've got these little sponges. These are just little makeup sponges. I want to make sure that I shake these really well. Let's start with, take the tops off of them. The reason for priming this before, these little things are porous, and alcohol ink is made to go on non-porous surfaces. So that's the reason that we needed to prime it first, so that our paint can stay on here and not just get sucked in. So I'm going to start with the string color, and you just start dabbing it. There doesn't have to be any kind of a, any kind of a rhyme or reason. It's just whatever kind of pattern that you like. Now, it dries very quickly, so before it dries, you want to take some of your alcohol and spray it on. And what you'll see is the paint starts to move around a little bit. I'm going to come up with the terracotta over here in this corner. And again with my alcohol ink. I've also I'm going to put the citrus kind of down the middle. These are just going to be colorful, fun colors. There's lots of different colors to choose from, so you would just pick colors that you like together. Like I said, these just are fun, pretty, playful colors. Maybe more, for a kitchen, to use in a kitchen or even in a bedroom. You can see how they manipulate the alcohol, manipulates the paint around a bit. Let that one kind of dry a little bit, and we'll do the same thing with this one. Like I said, there is no right or wrong pattern. It's just whatever you feel like the paint, where you want it, and the colors that you want to use, and which ones you want touching each other. But this is, as you see, just a few little drops is all I'm putting on my little sponge. You can use alcohol inks on so many different things, like I said, as long as it's not a porous. If it's porous, you do have to prepare the surface, which is, not a problem, but you will have to prepare your surface for the alcohol inks. I've used it on glass. When I've done it on glass, I did prime it also, though, just to kind of give it something there. This one just, I got a drip there, so we'll just start in this corner with the terracotta. my citrus, I'm going to kind of throw back down through the middle. Oops. I'm getting a little wild with my paints here. Now you can see what that did. Just dropping it on like that with the alcohol. Make sure that that's still in the frame. I don't want you to want to lose it there. You can find a lot of different recipes, if you will, to make your own the blending solution. I'm trying to see if this says what percentage of alcohol is in it. But I haven't done that. I've just used this, so I'm not going to just spout off a recipe to tell you. But you can find, if you just look for DIY alcohol blending solution, and you can find all kinds of recipes for making your own blending alcohol solution, because it is alcohol, but just it's different strengths of it. Now I've got this one. This one I had done to let it dry so that I could show you how to put the resin on it. And you just keep spraying your solution until it makes you get the pattern that you want, that you're happy with. But I do want this one to look like those, so I think we're going to add a little more to it. It almost has a tie-dye, you know, effect, look to it. But you can have a lot of fun, like I said, with the, you know, whatever colors you choose. Okay, I'm going to let these dry for a little bit. Like I said, alcohol ink, it does not take that long for it to dry. So we're going to let these dry, and then we'll put a coat of resin on. Okay, so I've got our coasters here. I've got them on top of this. It's actually a resin drying rack that I got from Little Windows. It's called Little Windows. And this is so that, you know, your run over, it has a place to catch the run over so it won't just, you know, gunk up underneath. So we've got these laid out. I've got them resin mixed. We're going to be using the amazing clear coat that I get from Alumilite, because it is a tabletop surfacing resin. So I've got my part A and part B mixed up. And I'm going to start pouring from the middle. Resin will find its way to the edges, and it's self-leveling, so it will keep to an extent, especially if you have it on a level surface. I'm not completely sure if my garage is 100% level, but it's pretty close, I'm sure. I'm going to fill in. I want it to find its way all the way to the edge. I want all of it covered completely. So you can kind of manipulate it a little bit. And again, it's gonna flow over a little bit. And if any does get trapped up underneath, before it after about 12 hours, you can actually pretty easily cut off anything, any drips like that with a X-Acto knife or something. It is much harder to, you can even, you can sand it. It is a lot harder once it's fully cured. I'm going to make sure that every little spot is covered so it will protect the surface of our coasters. Just gently raking across the top here to kind of help spread that, because that was a pretty thick coat in the middle, but so it left me with enough to work with there, I think. But just going to gently kind of scrape across the top of that to spread it all over the entire surface. And I'm sure if you're a scrapbooker, you're probably fully aware of all the Ranger inks and whatnot. But alcohol ink, I love working with it. You can also get the paper that they make to go with it, and you can make some really incredible designs on that paper. I've actually used some of those I've done in my resin jewelry. I'll make the painting and then cut it out to fit in my bezel, and then resin it on top of it to seal it in. Now, unlike some projects, I did not put a sealer on top of the alcohol inks, and as you can see, they're staying in place very well. Oops, I shoved a little much off of that one, but I want to make sure it has a good, good thick enough coat to be protective, because if you're going to use this as a coaster, you want it to do its job and be able to retain whatever design you've put on it. Oh, okay, that's something you don't want. Like I said, the nice thing is these, like I said, once it at least has, about 12 hours of curing, you can cut off or sand off anything that's gotten up underneath. Now, as I've mentioned with other resin projects, the thing, resin does tend to form bubbles once you mix your part A and part B together. I'm actually going to, you can pop them with a toothpick. I'm going to use this clear coat Eat a Bubble that's made for tabletop resin. So I'm just going to spray that lightly, and you can actually see any bubbles sort of dissipate, or I can from this angle, but I've got the light shooting this way, so I don't. And I can also see a couple more places that resin, like I said, I want it fully covered. So get different lights on it. Make sure that you have, make sure you have the whole thing covered, because you don't want any, I don't want these little edges to, I want it to fully cover and seal the edges. Since this is a silicone mat, the other nice thing is once my project cures here, I'll be able to get the resin drip off of this. I'll be able to peel it right off of this mat. I just want to make sure that like I said, all my edges are completely covered. And like I said, to get different lights on it, because sometimes you can see a tiny little place in a different light that maybe the resin hadn't moved to yet. Especially if there's the least bit of unlevelness on your work surface, which, like I said, I think mine is. Oops. I'm going to check again for bubbles. I love this stuff. This is really cool. I mean, chasing them around with a toothpick is not that fun, but you can do it that way. So I think we have just about, there's one little spot there that just doesn't want to flow, and I want it to. Don't want them sticking together, because they would cure together, and then you'd have you could get them apart, but you'd have a messed up piece there to work with. But anyway, that's it. And once they're done, I will put some felt backing or cork backing on the back side of them, and they'll be ready to use. Still see another bubble. It never hurts to come back and check it, about 30 minutes or so. Come back and check, see if any bubbles have risen, that you may not initially see. But that's it. So we will let them cure and package them together. Well, guys, I hope you'll take a moment to like and share this video, and hope you'll subscribe. Also, don't forget to watch my other videos on resin art and acrylic fluid pours.